5,000 sailors on a ship like the USS Nimitz can spend months at sea, surrounded by nothing but salt water they can't drink. One mistake and even a few gulps can push a healthy person toward dehydration and organ failure. Yet every sailor showers, eats, cooks, and works, using thousands of gallons of fresh water every single day. Their entire survival depends on huge systems deep inside the ship that turn ocean water into something safe. And when those systems fail, everything is at risk. Today, you'll see how the Navy gets fresh water in the middle of the ocean. On a ship gets used, walk into the galley at 3 a.m. and you instantly see where the ship's fresh water disappears. The night shift cook is already at the stainless steel wash basin, scrubbing up before he even thinks about touching ingredients. The ice maker rattles in the corner, pumping out cubes for crew coffee and cold chain food safety under blistering tropical heat. Pots rumble on the range, prepping pasta for 24 sailors who will show up starving. The coffee urn pushes out 80 cups before Dawn even thinks about showing up. The dish machine blasts through stacks of plates from 3 full services plus midnight chow. Then the deckhand mops the galley deck again to keep grease fires off the risk register. The whole place runs on fresh water, non-stop. Slide down the tight passageways into the crew quarters, and it only ramps up. Every cabin's got its own head, shower, basin, toilet. 30 people living inside a steel box that heats up like a boiler room. Most folks shower twice a day just to stay human. Hygiene alone consumes 200 liters per person. Here's the part almost nobody knows. Plenty of companies still charge crew for bottled water, even though the ship's treated water passes strict lab tests. Others give it free because it's the right call. And fresh water isn't just comfort, it's survival. Fire mains in the accommodation block run on fresh water only. Otherwise, seawater corrosion would shred pipework in months. Out on deck, taps sit every few meters so the crew can wash off salt after heavy seas fighting rust before it eats the ship alive. Do the math, and it's brutal. 15 to 50 tons a day. On a 90-day run, that's over 1 million liters. Tanks only hold a week. The ship drains them fast. Still 2 long weeks from the nearest port, and the only thing around them is an ocean that'd wreck kidneys and finish them off in days if they tried drinking it. So it makes you wonder, right? How does a ship keep going when the very stuff it's floating on is basically undrinkable poison? Coastal ships don't stress over water. They pull into port every few days. The chief engineer radios the supplier. A tanker truck rolls up, locks in a fat hose, and shoves 100 tons into the tanks. 2 hours later, they're topped off and gone. Easy. Deep sea vessels live in another world entirely. A box ship crawling across the Pacific spends 18 days without seeing land. Ore carriers running from Australia to China take nearly a month. Crude tankers grinding their way from the Gulf to Europe go 30 straight days without a single shore touch. Out there, self-sufficiency isn't a preference, it's survival. And the water around them is lethal. Seawater carries about 35,000 parts per million of dissolved salt, a concentration your kidneys simply can't beat. 1 desperate liter in your stomach forces your body to burn roughly 1.5 liters of its own fresh reserves, just trying to purge the salt load. You get thirstier, weaker, then things go downhill fast. Cramps, pressure spikes, fading focus, organs fast, cramps, pressure spikes, fading focus, an organ giving out long before rescue ever shows up. Old wooden warships knew this problem better than anyone. The USS Constitution packed oak barrels with enough drinking water to keep 450 sailors alive. 1 gallon each per day, more than 50 tons for a single crossing. They even scooped rainwater off the sails when things got tight. Water alone dictated how far a ship could go and how long its crew could fight. Cracking a problem that beat sailors for 2 straight centuries took engineering that feels almost unreal until you stand beside the machinery and watch it breathe. What kind of system can take seawater, straight up lethal brine, and flip it into clean, drinkable fresh water right there in the middle of nowhere? The freshwater generator sits deep in the engine room, tucked beside the roaring main engine, right in the spot most people avoid unless they absolutely have to. Down there, this beast of a machine takes raw seawater and turns it into clean drinking water through straight-up distillation. While distillation is a classic and widespread method, many modern ships now use reverse osmosis systems, which force seawater through fine membranes to filter out the salt. But for this story, we're focusing on the distiller. The first thing you feel in that space is heat slamming into you. It's pushing past 45 degrees Celsius, and the noise isn't noise anymore. It's a physical force. The main engine, alternators, cooling pumps, LO pumps, FO purifiers, ventilation blowers, all of it together, is screaming at 110 to 120 decibels. You step in without protection, you're half deaf before you've checked a gauge. Everyone going inside suits up. Thick boiler suits, steel toe boots, a hard hat, and hearing protection. Everything's vibrating. Everything's hot enough to sting. Nothing ever stops running. And right in the middle of that chaos, seawater becomes fresh water. Distillation, simple chemistry, heat the seawater until only the purest vapor lifts off. Leave the salt behind, cool the vapor back into liquid. Ships do this non-stop, turning out 15 to 50 tons a day with heat exchangers built like armored tanks. Evaporator, condenser, ejector pump, adductor, salinometer, each part hitting its mark or the whole operation dies. Steam rises, condenses, drops into the receiver, gets checked for salt, and only then moves into storage. Clean, usable, life-supporting. Sounds simple, but it's anything but. You hit a wall fast because the engine's waste heat can't reach boiling point, so engineers cheat physics and make water boil anyway. How? Let's show you. Water normally needs 100 degrees Celsius to boil, something everyone learns in school, but ships run into a snag right away. Their only real heat source is the main engine's jacket water system, and that loop tops out around 80 to 85 degrees Celsius. That's warm, sure, but nowhere near enough to make seawater flash into vapor under normal pressure, so engineers had to find a way to make water boil without actually getting it hot enough. And the trick they came up with feels almost like bending the rules. Everything depends on that sealed metal shell around the generator. Once you pull the air out of it, pressure collapses. Drop the pressure low enough and water doesn't need 100 degrees Celsius anymore. On Everest, with barely a third of normal atmospheric pressure, water boils at 68 degrees Celsius. Ships copy that trick on demand. The ejector pump forces seawater through an adductor, a narrow venturi throat that cranks velocity way up and pressure way down. That low-pressure zone sucks air straight out of the shell until the whole chamber sinks to roughly 0.47 bar. Suddenly, 80 degrees Celsius is more than enough. Seawater boils, steam lifts off clean, and the generator feeds distillate into the receiver tank, all while using the waste heat the engine was throwing away. No extra fuel, pure efficiency keeps a ship alive. Making clean water is the start because it still needs treatment and checks before it reaches your cabin tap safely. The whole cycle starts the moment seawater gets pulled off the main cooling line, already screened by coarse filters that keep out jellyfish, driftwood, and anything else that shouldn't end up in machinery. Part of that flow feeds the adductor to keep the vacuum alive inside the shell, and the rest gets routed through the condenser bundle, hundreds of narrow copper-nickel tubes carrying cool seawater straight from outside, usually somewhere around 25 to 32 degrees Celsius, depending on where the ship is sailing. At the same time, a separate feed stream is slipping into the evaporator, spreading over heating tubes loaded with jacket water running at roughly 80 to 85 degrees Celsius. Under normal pressure, that wouldn't boil anything, but under deep vacuum, it's more than enough. The seawater flashes into vapor, leaves its salts behind as heavy brine, and the adductor throws that brine overboard while pulling out air to keep the pressure down. The steam rises through the demister pad, dumping any stray droplets, then floods the condenser shell where it hits the cold tubes and snaps back into liquid. That condensate drops into the hot well, and when the level creeps up, the distillate pump shoves it forward toward the salinometer. If salt content is below the safe threshold, typically under 2 parts per million, it keeps going. If not, it loops back for another pass. This pure distillate is now safe to drink, but it's aggressive and can have a flat taste. It's sent to storage tanks where it's treated with a disinfectant like chlorine to keep it bacteriologically safe for the crew. From there, it splits off into stainless domestic tanks for drinking water, sanitary tanks for showers and laundry, and a separate distilled tank feeding engine room systems. Pressure pumps keep everything at 3 to 4 bars. Hot water boilers keep the crew supplied, and the whole loop keeps running day and night. So what happens if that whole system dies out in the middle of nowhere? The crew is left stuck, counting every liter, wondering how long they can hold out before the taps run dry. Machines quit without warning. A seal tears open, a pump starts coughing, a sensor throws a tantrum, and suddenly the freshwater generator, the one system nobody jokes about, drops dead in the middle of the open ocean. When that happens far from land, the whole ship feels it. The chief engineer doesn't waste a second. He slashes consumption right away. Showers get trimmed to quick rinse-offs, laundry goes dark, deck wash stays on hold, and every non-essential valve gets closed tight. The galleys keep running because food safety's sacred, and drinking water stays unrestricted because thirst knocks people down faster than any busted piece of machinery. If the ship's only a few days from port, the tanks, maybe 100 to 200 tons total, might just stretch long enough. But on long-haul runs, weeks from a coastline, that math hits hard. 30 tons burned every day means those tanks empty quicker than anyone likes to admit. That's why engineers treat this system like a living thing. Daily checks on vacuum gauges, salinometer calibration, demister fouling, production output, pump vibration, valve cycling. Nothing gets ignored. Every few months, they crack open the shell, scrub the condenser tubes, change gaskets, swap seals, flush scale, recalibrate the salinometer, and test every automatic safety tied into the evaporator shell and distillate line. Manuals from the makers spell out every bolt torque and cleaning interval, and sticking to it stops almost every failure. Almost. Sometimes a pump bearing seizes or a condenser tube gives up from hidden corrosion. Maybe an electrical relay burns itself in the control panel. Then the engineer digs through the spares locker, UV lamps, demister pads, relays, pump seals, O-rings, membrane cartridges, and desk-scaling chemicals, trying to piece together a fix with whatever's on board. When a part's missing, they rig a temporary patch just to keep the distillate trickling and the salinometer from screaming. Some ships and military units keep a lightweight purification system strapped down in a corner. It's a tiny reverse osmosis trailer, pushing out about 7 tons a day, barely enough, but it keeps the crew hydrated while everything else gets rationed. Through all of it, engineers stand their watches in brutal heat, crawling around, piping runs, listening for odd rattles, chasing alarms, knowing one slip might drain the tanks dry. And when you crack a cabin tap and clean water runs out without a second thought, that's their work humming quietly behind the steel. Now you've seen how sailors turn seawater into the one thing they can't live without. Would 180 days at sea drinking water made from the ocean interest you or not at all? Let us know in the comments. For more insights into life in the Navy, subscribe and hit the bell. We'll see you in the next video. Did that leave you hanging? Check out our other works here and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe.